Good evening, everyone. This is John Rollins, and I'm here for our weekly S.T.R.I.V.E session. S.T.R.I.V.E, strategies to remain informed, strategies to remain victorious, strategies to remain empowered. We are here, and I pray that you've had a good week. I hope that things are going well for you in your life, in the life of your family, those who you love. And I'm hopeful that on this evening, we're able to give you something that will bring some understanding to some steps that you can take personally to enrich the quality of life that you're experiencing. All right? And thank you all for those who shared your comments about last week. I know my post probably sounded somewhat unusual, but I had no inspired thought. I had nothing that I felt I was impressed to say. And so there's an old saying, if you don't have anything good to say, don't say anything at all. I just decided that I would not come on and just be here for the sake of being here. Okay, but I think I have an inspired thought today. And so I want to share our thought with you, what you see in the subject. And many of you have probably said this, or you've heard someone else say this before. If I knew then, some of you probably are completing that statement. If I knew then what I know now, then I would do things a whole lot different. And so that's what we want to speak on today. If I knew then. When my children were younger, we had a tradition, or I was trying to establish a tradition. And not only for my children, but even for my godchildren, about our birthdays. Whenever we would have a birthday celebration, we would go to the person's favorite restaurant or wherever they want to do for that evening. But one of the conversations that we would have is I would ask them to, whatever age they were, to reverse your age. So an example, if they were 18, I would say, so you're 18 now, but let's reverse your age at 81. What is it that you would like to see in your life when you are 81? Or if they were 12, when by the time you're 21, what would you like to have accomplished in your life by that time? And of course, if they were 21, then we reverse that age and say, if you could go back and tell your 12-year-old self something, or if you could give some advice to your 12-year-old self based on what you know now, what input, what advice, what suggestions would you give to that person? If you knew then what you know now, how would you have lived your life different? Okay, I've said on many occasions, and I probably said it here on some of our S.T.R.I.V.E sessions, I said it in some of my training programs, that the biggest gap for most Americans, for most people, not just Americans, but the biggest gap in our success is the gap between what we know and what we do. And I believe that you will agree that there are so many times when there are things that we know that we're supposed to be doing, things that we know would add value, would provide a benefit to us if we did it. But for whatever reason, we fail to do what we know. Okay, so that has been my statement. I've shared that in training programs, but I've since come to understand that there is something that occurs not only between what we know and what we do, but I believe there's something that creates a break in our mental circuitry. You know, kind of you have a short in your systems, a short in your electrical equipment. It doesn't function the way that there is. Well, I believe that there's something that creates a short in our action connection. That's what I call it. Our action connection between knowing and doing. And until we recognize what that is, that short will continue to create hesitations or reservations within us that prevents us from closing that gap, that knowing and that doing gap. And I believe that whatever it is that's creating that short, that break, that circuit interruption, I think it's an understanding gap. Many times cognitively, we know that something is missing, something that's necessary, that is within our control, that can create for us the outcomes we desire. Okay, there's something within us, whether it's a result of an instinctive reaction or something that we've learned over time through experience, but there's something that permits us to know that a behavior, an action, or decision will create a specific outcome. Maybe we've observed it, maybe we've experienced it in the past, but we know that if we do X, Y, Z, it's going to result in a specific outcome. Here's what you know, here's what I know, here's what we've shared with others. We don't always know, or we're seldom able to control we're able to control what we do, but we don't always know what we do, what outcome, what consequence will arise as a result of those behaviors, as a result of those actions. We don't know what the consequences will always be for our decisions. So here's a question. If you could, how would you change things about your life? The things that you currently know, the things that you currently do, based on the outcomes that you received. If you could go back, how would you change the things about your life that based on what you know now, based on what you do, that will allow you to arrive at a different outcome? And of course, now the reality is that we're seldom ever able to go back and get what I've heard is a mulligan, a redo, a do-over on our behaviors, on our actions, or our decisions. Okay, we're fortunate if we learn from those previous encounters. We're fortunate if we implement the lessons that we've learned so that we can eliminate future undesirable outcomes. But no, we don't get a chance to go back and do it again. Now, sometimes those opportunities, when we experience them, we have what we call a deja vu moment. If you may be familiar with the deja vu the concept, is like, man, I've been here before. Something about this seems familiar. It's like I'm reliving this moment from a previous experience in my life. Maybe it was a dream. Maybe it was we say a vision. Maybe there's something that happened where all of those circumstances that you're experiencing at that moment seem eerily familiar to you. Well, it's during those opportunities when we experience those deja vu types of conditions where we are able to, I say, select the prize behind a different door. If you're familiar with those game shows, they say, well, I'm going to select door number 1. And you get door number 1, and door number 1 is a box with some I don't know, some canned macaroni and cheese. I don't know, I'm just making something up. Okay, but you see, man, I wish I had selected door number 2. Well, there are going to be some times when we're going to experience things, and those situations are going to seem so similar. You're going to say, you know what? Last time I chose door number 1, and I was not happy at all with door number 1. I'm going to try door number 3 this time. Okay, so, and we can get a different outcome. Here's something. I believe that if we were to conduct a survey of 100 people, we would find that there are only very few, and I could say you probably can count them on one hand, but we would find very few people who say that they have zero regrets about how they live their life. And I'm a person who I really believe I try to make good decisions, but there are some things that I wish I had done differently at a previous point in my life. Okay. Now, even those people, and you may be one of those who've committed yourself to making the best possible decisions throughout your entire life. You've done your homework. You've gotten good counsel from wise people. You prayed about it. You fasted about it. You meditated about every aspect of your life. And still, you have some regrets. There are some people who, and you may be one of these people, where you have acknowledged the Lord in all of your ways. You've not leaned to your own understanding, but you have some regrets. You may be a person who's had the best of intentions. And you say, you know, those individuals who have those great intentions, most likely, if they could go back and there's something that they would like to do over. I think about Peter. Peter was the disciple of Christ. Peter proclaimed his unfailing commitment, his unfailing dedication to Christ. He said that he would be willing to die for Christ. But I'm confident that if when Peter made that declaration, no one could have convinced Peter that he would deny Christ. No one. Peter would have fought you if you would have come to him and said, Peter, you're going to deny Christ. Now, Christ told him, Christ said, Peter, you're going to deny me. He said, I understand what you're saying, but you're going to deny me. You're going to want to do that over. And here he was, before the next morning, Peter found himself inconsolable, weeping, because he had denied Christ. He had denied that he had any knowledge of. He had denied that he had any relationship with Christ. He wished that he could have lived that moment over. So there are very few of us who will live out our time here on the earth with no regrets. But I refuse to accept that we have to bathe ourselves in an overflow of regrets. I don't believe that we have to live our lives and every week, every month, every year, we go back regretting decisions that we made. I believe that we can get to the place where we can make good decisions, decisions that we're willing to live with, decisions that when we are asked about them again, you say, you know what? Based on what I knew at the time, based on the decision I made, if I were presented with the same set of circumstances, the same environment, the same conditions, I wouldn't change a thing. I believe that we can live our lives that way. I've said it on more than one occasion during our S.T.R.I.V.E sessions. I've said it in previous training programs, and I'll say it here today. Only a fool learns from his own mistakes. Okay, and this is not an original quote, but only a fool learns from his own mistakes. A wise person, a wise man, a wise woman, they learn from the mistakes that other people make. You would be unwise to sit and observe people who are doing things that you know are not producing desirable outcomes, and then for you to repeat those same decisions, those same actions, those same behaviors. I heard Jim Rohn saying, and I'm paraphrasing, he says, you don't have enough time to make all the mistakes on your own. So take time to learn, take time to observe, watch what other people do and learn from their mistakes, and then you don't have to repeat those same mistakes. So if you knew then, how would that have changed the way that you parent? What have you learned from watching other parents? I believe that if you spend time watching and observing, paying attention, there's something that you've learned from another parent, another set of parents, that you could either add to or eliminate from your skill set. Okay? Who do you know who has consistently, successfully been able to manage their finances? What is it that they do that maybe you can implement? How do they handle their bills? Do they live beyond their means? Are they givers or sowers? Okay, you say, well, I don't know. Well, have you asked them? Have you considered going to them and asking them, how is it that you always seem to be living in abundance? I'm curious. I want to know, because I don't live that way, and I think that there's a better way that I can do it, and I'm open to learning. I want to know what you know, so that when I get to the place, I can have a position or be in a position to do what you're doing. Think about your educational endeavors. What program, what major that seems to align with your natural giftings, your natural passions? Who is someone that you know who's in that position along the same line that you're pursuing, that's been doing it for a while? Do they like their job? Do they seem engaged? Do they seem that they're making not just having success, but they're making or having some type of significance? Okay, what are some of the restrictions that they've experienced that are associated with that particular career path? What about a relationship, somebody who has a relationship, or a couple that have relationships that seem like they're ideal? It may not be a couple, maybe someone who has great friendships. Okay, what makes it work? Okay, how does that individual treat other people? Okay, how do they deal with disappointments? Okay, especially in relationships with couples. How do they deal with disappointments? Because I promise you that there are times when they disappoint each other. But how do they deal with it? What are some signs? What are some indications that show you that they support each other, even during those times of disappointments, and they still make allowances for the individual likes or preference of each other? Okay. Do you know what your non-negotiables are? When I say non-negotiables, those things that you just will not accept in your life, you will not accept in your circle, you will not accept in those friendships. How do you communicate your non-negotiables so that other people know what it is that you stand for, And then what is it that you do to make sure that you hold yourself accountable to that standard? What about your spiritual walk? Who do you know that has a well-established spiritual relationship, one that seems to withstand attacks from all sides? How did they get to that point? So what were some of the tests? What was some of the opposition? What was some of the stress, the trials that they endured? How did they handle their missteps? So you know what you know. That's just a fact. What you know, you know. And what you don't know, you don't know. Okay? But I encourage you to not let ignorance become your excuse. Well, I didn't know. I don't know. It's one thing to not know. That's again, what we know, what we know, what we don't know, we just don't know. Okay. But there are some things we don't know because we've not been exposed to them. Example, it would be unrealistic for you to go to a second grader and ask that person, what kind of grades are you making in physics? They've not been exposed to it. They haven't been introduced to the concept, to the topic. Okay. So there's some things that we don't know because we've not been exposed to it. But there are other things that we don't know because we were exposed to it. Okay. But we were not paying attention, or we ignored what we saw. We ignored what we heard. We ignored the obvious, those things that are right there in front of us. And if that has been your situation, I can assure you that there's going to come a time in your life when you're going to look back and say, man, I wish I had made a different decision. If I knew then what I know now, I would have made a different decision. I would have made a better choice. Well, I'm here to let you know that better choices are available to you if you start making good choices today. Good choices today will result in better choices in our future. I promise you that. All right. So, no, you may not know now. Okay. But you can learn so that when you get to then, you will say, oh, yeah, that's not me because I knew and I chose to behave or act, respond differently. All right. Hey, guys, this is John with the S.T.R.I.V.E session. Strategies to remain informed, strategies to remain victorious, strategies to remain in power. And I end today the way that I love to end. It's been 2 weeks since we were together. So maybe you've gone a couple of weeks without having someone to come into your life to affirm your greatness, to remind you just how valuable you are, to let you know that their world would not be the same if you were not in it, to remind you that you make a difference for them. If you've not had someone to come into your life and to speak like that for you, then I want to be the one to remind you that not only today, but tomorrow and forever, you are important. All right. Hey, guys, this is John with S.T.R.I.V.E. You all be blessed, and we'll see you next week, hopefully. All right.